Spatial technologies for flood and drought monitoring. On behalf of the CSA College Management, the correspondent and principal, I would like to welcome the speaker, Dr. J. Brema, who is the professor in Karunya Institute of Technology and Sciences, who is about to deliver the webinar on topic Geospatial Technologies for Flood and Drought Monitoring. Madam, on behalf of the Civil Engineering Department and CSA College of Engineering, we welcome you, Madam. Over to Geeta, Madam.
Good morning, everyone. A great pleasure to introduce our chief guest, Dr. Brema J. She has been completed at UG as civil engineering and PG in environmental and water resources. She did a doctorate in conjunctive use of surface and groundwater resources in Noyal River Basin using GIS. Her administrative experience as program coordinator, principal, head of the department. Her professional experiences: worked as a lecturer in the year 2004 to 2008 at Karunya University and worked as an assistant professor in the year 2010 to 2012 at Karunya University, and also worked as an associate professor for the year of 2013 in the same concern, and then started to work as a head of the department and principal at Nehru Institute of Technology. Currently, she is working as a professor at Karunya Institute of Technology and Sciences. She has taken many consultancies, sponsored projects, and doctoral research guidance. She already did one guided project, and currently she is handling 7 doctoral guiding projects. She attended many conferences and short-term training programs, as well as delivered guest lecturers also. Thank you. Would like to hand over the session to speaker, ma'am.
Madam. Brema, madam. Hello.
Naveen sir, I will mute இருக்கு.
Sir, நான் இப்ப உங்களுக்கு தனியா இப்ப கால் பண்ணிறேன் sir. 1 second.
Okay.
I'll tell her.
எனக்கு கேட்கவே இல்லையே சார். God, it's a problem. It's a problem. Good morning to all. Can you hear me?
Yes, madam.
Good morning. Good morning to all. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Only, ma'am.
Naveen sir?
Yes, madam.
Can
It
you
is
hear me?
audible, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is audible, madam.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. It is audible, madam.
Hello.
Only, ma'am. We can start the session, ma'am.
Hello. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, madam. It is audible, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
நவீன் சார், நம்ம பேசுறது அவங்களுக்கு கேக்குறது இல்ல சார்.
நவீன் சார் ஃபோன் பண்ணிருங்க.
Okay, so I can start presenting. Okay. Thank you. So welcome all to this session. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I thank the management of KT College of Engineering, CSA College of Engineering, and Mr. Naveen for this opportunity for presenting this webinar. So I'm going to present to you the lecture on flood and drought mapping using GIS. I hope you can see the screen, okay? Okay, when you say flood and drought mapping using remote sensing and GIS, I would like to give you some introduction about remote sensing and GIS. I hope there are students and faculty who know the basics of remote sensing in this particular group. So basically remote sensing is finding out what is in an object without physically in contact with that object. That's what is called remote sensing. So it can be a camera, it can be a sensor or anything like that. What we are here talking about is satellite images. How can we use our satellite images for studying this flood, drought? It is related to Earth studies. I have taken only these two. Okay, GIS is, you might have studied the GIS in any of your platforms. For example, in your subjects, is Geographical Information System. How can I use my satellite imagery in my software? How to analyze? This is what is GIS. Okay, that is a brief introduction about these two. Let us go to this flood and drought. Why should we study this flood and drought? That is more important. Now, if you see previously 10 years before, these were not, of course, we had drought. Drought was a usual occasion. But now flood is the occasion which has come very often, every year once, 2 years once, or something like that. At least sometimes in a year 2 or 3 times floods occur. So recent flood, what we have seen is in Kerala, in Orissa, okay, due to cyclone, due to monsoon, different effects are there. What is the reason for this flood? Previously, if you see this rainfall intensity, in my presentation after this also I have got a small graph where you will be seeing that variation in rainfall. Okay, so previously we had 4 seasons of rainfall: summer, winter, northeast, southwest. Now if you see presently, we don't have like that. Mostly we are going through monsoon seasons only. Your summer is almost reduced, and winter season or winter rainfall is also reduced. It has got clubbed with the monsoons. So that is why we get high intensity rainfall in a short duration. And again, another thing is, if you have low intensity rainfall for a longer duration, it's not going to cause floods. The flood is the main reason is because of high intensity rainfall within a short period duration. Okay. Now I have put a small flow chart here. This is the general thing what we follow in case of any flood modeling. So you should have a land use map. What is the pattern there? That you should know. How much area is in the cultivation, how much urban area, hydrologic soil group. This is the type of soil what you will be having. For example, what is the rate of infiltration in a soil? That is what is this hydrologic soil group. And you should have this one. This is very important, which is called digital elevation model. So this will show you how a contour varies from one place to another place. Digital elevation model is a raster where elevation values will be varying in different times, not in different times, in different places. Okay, that you can download from them, or if you have a contour map, you can use your contours. Okay, so that was my first thing. Then next one, you have to generate this curve number grid. We will see that later. Then Bayesian processing, then come to this meteorological model, calibration, calculated discharge. And any study when you have taking, you need a calibration. Calibration means compare your calculated discharge with the observed discharge. Okay, so these are the images what we have taken from Kerala flood. So these are the consequences of flood. Okay, now the total outline of this presentation will be water management. What is the purpose of water management? And everybody should know what is hydrologic cycle before you want to know something about flood and drought. And how do you do this flood mapping, drought mapping, and what are the applications of GIS for this flood mapping and drought mapping. So if you see this slide here, these was the previous years how our water management was. So we had good number of canals. So this is nothing but your Buckingham Canal, where there was a transport was there, maintenance was there, transport was there. So it was maintained. And now these are the situations what we have now. Since these are not maintained, these are not acting as flood carriers. So flood carriers means normally in urban city, whatever streams, canals we have, we can other way we can call it as flood carriers. So it carries as excess flood. But what happens is when we dump all this waste and everything here in our canals and streams, it gets blocked. So because of that, it doesn't carry any more water. The carrying capacity goes off. Okay, that is the reason for this. Instead of flowing into the other places, it just flows on the road. Okay, and another thing is more urbanization. That is also, so adding these two effects causes the floods. And why should we have this water management? As I was telling, non-uniform distribution of water around the year is happening now. Okay, shortage of water leads to drought, and excess of water leads to floods. And this should be in such a way that you balance these two. Excess of water, what we are having now, it has to be diverted, and it should be stored so that you use it for the drought period. So these are the projects where our current governments are concentrating on that, but still there are lackness from our side. So you can see here, this is the Krishna Canal when it was constructed in the earlier, supported by Sai Baba. So the water is reaching from Andhra to Chennai through this Krishna Canal. So you see how it has been maintained. Lining is done properly. So this sort of maintenance is required for canals. Okay. Then you can say we are going for better water management, and we will not have shortage of water, and we will not have excess of water also. That is what is the purpose of water management. Okay. Now, hydrologic cycle. So it's also called as global water cycle or just water cycle. So what happens here? Water is never, you can say water is, I can form water. Okay. Water is always a thing which is present, which is recycled, and which you can have to move it from one place to another place so that you can use it. Okay. You cannot form a molecule of water. That is not at all possible. Okay. So in that case, how the water moves from one space to another space. So we have it like this. We have got some biosphere, atmosphere, lithosphere, hydrosphere. Hydrosphere means where you have your water in terms of water bodies, lakes, streams, rivers. That you call it as water bodies, hydrosphere. And geosphere, where the living earth surface, that is called as geosphere. And biosphere, you call it as your organisms which is living, all living organisms, it comes under biosphere. And this is your atmosphere, where your interactions takes place for the movement of clouds and rainfall, condensation, everything takes place here, and you get your rainfall. Okay, so all these are parts of hydrologic cycle. The next diagram shows you how water moves from one form to another form. Okay, basically, so this is a more important crux of this. I should have sun. You would have studied in your irrigation engineering or water resources engineering. All civil engineering students would have studied this hydrologic cycle. So you should have sun. From sun, evapotranspiration, and evaporation takes place, and it gets imported here, and it forms clouds, and then clouds make it as precipitation. Of course, you should have some condensation. Condensation nuclei should be there. Then only cloud formation will take place. It flows as rain. It flows into the streams. It reaches into your river and seas. Okay. Another type of flow is groundwater flow. Lateral flow, groundwater flow, everything takes off. This is what is your hydrologic cycle. So I am talking here about only the surface water, not about the groundwater. Okay. So for that, you should know what are the different types of rain occurs in any particular place. Okay. So normal thing what we see here is rain. Of course, other types is also there. Freezing rain, snow melts, hits, cold air, freezes in the form of, when it hits something, it freezes. Sleet, it falls like flakes, and another one is snow. And we don't have these components in our place, in a tropical region. We see this, okay, rain. Now this is what I was telling. I have got different types of rain: drizzle, rain, high intensity, low intensity. So there you have to concentrate. You want to study flood mapping, you have to concentrate on this, okay. So this is another form of hydrologic cycle, what takes place between the groundwater and surface water. Precipitation and evaporation, losses, how it goes on. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next one. What are the softwares and tools we are going to use? So the major software what I have been using for all these periods is ArcGIS, ArcMap, and other supporting softwares are there. HEC, HMS, HEC RAS, GeoHMS, ArcHydro, ArcSWAT. Except ArcGIS, all are open source software. You can very well download it, integrate it with ArcGIS, and you can use it. Okay, you have got another alternative for ArcGIS, QGIS. That is open source software. You can very well use it in your projects. Okay, the functions and tools almost are same compared to ArcGIS and QGIS. Okay, what is the difference between hydrologic modeling and hydraulic modeling? That I want to tell before I go into the next one. Hydrologic modeling is you have a watershed, you have a catchment area. When water flows, it becomes runoff and it moves out to the streams and canals. Okay, that you call it as hydrologic modeling. When it comes to streams and canals, it has a cross section and it moves from one point to another point because of the slope, because of the gradient, because of the section variation, all these things. Okay, that is hydraulic modeling. So when you are working only on a canal network model, use this HECRAS. And when you're working on your catchment area, flow, surface runoff, etc., we use this. And HMS is an extension of HEC GeoHMS is an extension of HMS. You can use an ArcMap for producing your outputs. ArcHydro tools. This is used, I have been telling you about a DEM. A DEM is the one which gives you elevation difference. From elevation difference, you can know what is the flow direction. It is, I have put a slide here in my presentation. So based on that, you can identify your catchment area. And then for that, you can use this ArcHydro tools. ArcSWAT is a software where you can know how much water is entering into the ground, how much is flowing on the surface. It is called as more or less a water balance modeling software. Okay, it will show you the hydrologic cycle itself. Okay, that is what is ArcSWAT. Okay, now there are different methods to study a flood. Okay, I have taken some 2 or 3 methods in this. Okay, first one, what I'm doing is based on remote sensing, how you can identify your mapping. Okay, so we are taking some spectral indices. The first one, what I'm taking is NDVI, Normalized Differential Vegetation Index. Okay, what is this Normalized Differential Vegetation Index? Before that, we should know something about your images, satellite imageries. So what I have put here in a tabular column is, in a satellite, what will be your bands and what are called as bands. For example, of course, the resolution is here, it is hidden. Okay, so if I have taken Landsat 8, in case of Landsat 8, you will be having 11 bands like this. Okay, so one coastal aerosol, what is your wavelength? And what is the wavelength it talks about? It is about your electromagnetic radiation. Within the visible range only we are working. Okay, all this visible region, how much ever it is, that is what we are working. We are not working with UV and infrared. Okay, in case of thermal, they'll be using this infrared portion. Okay, now band 1 refers to coastal aerosol, 0.43 to 0.45. Band 2 gives you blue, green, red, and near infrared, like that. So every satellite will have, first we had 3 bands, then we made it into 7 bands. Now we have come to 12 bands. And when I go to hyperspectral remote sensing, I have 226 bands. Okay, so you will have so much of variations in your image. You can see this is a processed image. A rough image will show you multiple colors if you have more number of bands. That is called spectral resolution. And of course, you should know have a resolution called as pixel size. It is given here. So thermal infrared gives you 100 meter by 100 meter pixel size. Whereas if you take this band 1, band 2, it will give you 30 meter. That means each pixel size will be of 30 meter by 30 meter. Okay. So like this, you should be knowing the band. And after knowing the band, you can go for this type of classification, NDVI. So I have given the formula here, band 4 minus band 3 by band 4 plus 3. That means we are using only this red and green. You are trying to project your vegetation, however, how much ever it is possible. Okay, so if it is Landsat 457, use this formula. Landsat 8, use this formula. Okay, so you will get such a map which is called as your normalized differential vegetation index. So here, what is shown here is it will range from -1 to +1. I have given it here. -1 to 0 represents water bodies. -0.1 to 1.1, it represents barren rocks, etc. It goes up to 1. Now 0.6 to 1, that means this color. That represents your water body. This is the lowest color, water body. And highest color, that is the brown color here, it represents vegetation. So if you see this here, this is taken in the year March 2004. Okay, and this was taken in 2009. It is hidden here, 2009. So by this much period, the vegetation is slightly increased. What I'm showing you is Chennai. Chennai, corporation area. Okay, and you can see the difference in water body here also. This much only was the water body, and this is the water body after 5 years. Okay, this is what is NDVI, and this is NDVI, normalized differential built index. How much area is under barren area and how much area is under under built up area, that means residential area. So this will give you a better assessment of flood mapping, because as the barren land and the residential area increases, flood is going to increase. So this is another criteria what you have to study. So you can use your plans like this. And here also, here high value represents this built up area and barren land. Okay, so this is 2004 and this is 2014. Okay, by the way, you can see the difference here, and this represents water bodies here. Okay, this is another one, NDWI, normalized differential water index. So here it gives you where I have maximum water bodies. So this is taken between 5 months difference. This is before monsoon and this is after monsoon. Before monsoon means the month of May in 2009, and this is September. During monsoon time it is taken. You can see the water bodies very clearly here. So this will give you the inundation, how much area is under inundation. For example, I'm having Velachery here. So this much was the water area in before monsoon, and after monsoon, this much area is under submergence. What is the area of submergence? You can study very easily. And another one, you can see the concentration here, light blue, and it becomes dark blue. What is the reason for this? The thickness of the water, the volume of the depth of water has increased. So the color also becomes dark. Water absorbs maximum, that is why it looks dark. Okay. And next, one other important thing is estimation of land surface temperature. So this is another effect is there. It is called as urban heating. When you go for multiple residential areas and complexes and all those things, it creates your heat increases. So you can estimate your temperature based on that. So this is for 2004 and this is for 2009. So this high value of temperature here is 36 and here the high value of temperature is 37.0. So wherever the brown color is there, it represents 37.0 centigrade, and 23 is the lowest value. So that naturally comes in water bodies, blue colors. Okay, wherever you have water body, the temperature is very less. And these places will be the buildings and barren lands, etc., where high reflectance is there. Okay, so this is how you estimate LST. Okay, now I'm going to use some case studies. Okay, so first I'm taking Chennai as a case study. Since for want of time, I'm not elaborating it. What is a possibility? I'm just showing you so that I can explore further if you want. Now here we have taken only Adayar River. So it is part of the Chennai metropolitan area. We know that flood occurred in the years 2005, 2008 and 2015. So rapid urbanization on the banks of the river. So there was no place for the water to flow, as I was telling. So there should be space for the water to flow, to carry water. Okay, there was no space, so it just got widened. That is what is the reason. And okay, I'll just explain to you what is this diagram. So this is your river, and this portion is called as the catchment area of the river, from where the water gets into this one. So we have delineated the catchment using the ARC hydro tools, and the streamline also has been delineated. Okay, and then we identified the discharge values for various return periods. What is the meaning of the return period is? I think this also you would have studied. If I take a 2 years return period, what is the probability of this sort of amount of water occurring in every 2 years, and then every 5 years? What is the probability like that? So normally flood studies, they will be taking this 50-year return period and 100-year return period. That was the previous frequency, but now we are coming slowly to this 10-year return period. Every 10 years, what is the maximum rainfall that can occur? That is what is this. Okay, so for various return periods we have generated this. So if you see for 2 years it is only 600, whereas at 10 years it is very high, 1400. So our canal has to be designed for this flood so that it never overflows. Okay, that is the reason for drawing these hydrographs. And you can see the inundation map here. This is a flood event, and for a 2-year return period we got this much only, for a 5-year return period, for a 10-year return period. So now your image shows that you have exceeded this 10-year return period, and this was the submergence. This much quantity of sides were submerged. Dark blue represents actually the river line, and the remaining area is area of submergence. And this we have put it on zones of Chennai. So these are the zones through which Adayar River just passes through. And you can see here what is the area for each of this and what is the submergence here. Okay. So the submergence is high in case of a 100-year. This is the area. In which of these zones, how much area has been under submergence? So if I take Adayar, 4.25 square kilometer was under submergence. Okay. And St. Thomas Mount and Alandur were the next highest one. Okay. You can assess the area using your GIS. Using the raster analyst, how much area, how much pixels are under submergence, you can assess very easily. Okay. This is another method where you find out what is your quantity of area. So the previous one, what I have shown here is this one using HECRAS model. This has been studied using HEC, HMS and HECRAS. And this is purely based on GIS. So for the year 2015, and again the same flood period, we have taken July to November at various times. What is the area of water body? This is one we studied, nothing else is studied. So we have done NDWI, and here the area is given. So if you could see here, July 27, and when it comes to November, it is 47. So this is the ample and quantity of rainfall what you are getting in a particular monsoon season. Okay, provided this is stored, it will not lead to flood and it will not lead to drought also. And there is a relationship between your water index and vegetation index. Higher the water index, higher will be the vegetation index. So the vegetation index is also studied, and the area of vegetation under for different periods is also studied. You can see the increase in vegetation in all these years. Okay. And this is NDBI. This we have studied for a period of 1993 to 2015. So this is moving in a faster rate. Your flooding is going to occur in a faster rate. So within this Chennai Corporation area, we have from 25.36 kilometers square, we have reached up to 56.60 kilometers square. It is almost double the quantity. Okay, now I am taking another case study, Kerala. So in case of Kerala, where in case of 2018, we had a severe flood, 6 districts were affected very heavily. So I have taken those 6 districts and we have generated the NDWA for those 6 districts alone. And how did we identify the 6 districts? I'll tell you. So we made a statistical analysis for this. Okay, in your 6 districts, what is the annual rainfall and is a normal rainfall? Actually, we will compare your rainfall with the normal rainfall. Normal rainfall means for 30 years you take average and that you put it for the normal rainfall and compare it with the corresponding year. So if you see here, if it is higher, you put it as positive, and if it is lesser, you put it as negative. Okay. So there is a Palakkad 35.5, very high excess rainfall, and Idukki 47.09, very high rainfall. And there are places with deficiency also, Thrissur and Kollam. Okay. If you see Palakkad and Thrissur are very closer, but there is a large variation because of the Western Ghats. Nobody can quantify where I'll get rain, when I'll get rain in case of Kerala. It's very difficult. So you can see very slight difference only between the 2 places, but there's a large variation in rainfall, in terms of rainfall. So based on this, we identified some of the places, and based on submergence also, available data. Okay. So Wayanad, this is a low-lying area. Malappuram, high rainfall was there. Idukki, again high rainfall was there. Alappuram, Kottayam was also having very high rainfall. Okay, based on this, we identified. If you see here, what does this graph shows? From 1982 to 2018, it has been studied. There is a decrease in rainfall. The trend line shows a decrease. Malappuram, it remains the same. Idukki, there is a decrease. Even though there is a decrease, we had a very high flood in case of Idukki. And Alappuzha remains the same. Kottayam also remains the same. Kozhikode, it's slightly increased. Okay. So based on this only, we identified these 6 districts. Okay. Again, you compare this rainfall month-wise. Which month they are getting very high rainfall. So here also, if you see, this is Kottayam, and the topmost one is, I'm sorry, this is Kottayam, and this one is Wayanad. Wayanad is one which is having least rainfall, and we had highest rainfall in 2014, and then 2000. In case of this, you can see here 2014, and here also it is slightly closed here. Here it is 2018, highest rainfall which occurred in case of it is not visible here in case of Idiki. Okay, so based on these type of data, you try to find out what is the deviation, which month we get highest rainfall, which month you get maximum rainfall. So corresponding to that month, you have to do the mapping. Okay, that is why we do that preliminary statistical analysis. So what you see here is the NDWI for Idiki district before the flood. Okay, so this is the flooded area, submergence before flood. This is naturally they have a water body here. You've got your famous Idiki reservoir, and another water body is also present here. And this is after flood, if you see. So these areas are the submergence areas. These areas very close to this. These are the submergence area, and here this place. Okay. So you can find out the area. Another method is there, which is called as wetness index. What is this wetness index is? Based on the slope and based on the catchment area. For example, higher the slope, the drainage will take place in a maximum extent because of the gravitational effect. Okay. Another one is your soil type. So I have told we have different types of soils, hydrologic soil group, which infiltrates very easily and which allows the water to flow very easily. It will not allow percolation. Some types of soils are there, which can group under 4 groups of soil types, hydrologic soil types, ABCD. So based on this, the topographic wetness index is calculated. So this is your catchment area and this is your slope. Okay. Higher the wetness index, higher the possibility of landslides and flooding occur. So if you see here, this is your Idiki district, and this place, the wetness index is very high. And again, and in this place also wetness index is very high. These are all high, what I can say is high rainfall and high elevation. But here also there is a higher elevation area is there, but it doesn't have high topographic index because of the elevation difference. Okay, the elevation is slowly occurring. It is not a drastic elevation difference. Again, in case of coastal area, you will see this high values of topographic wetness index, where you may get a possibility of getting floods. Okay. So for each of these districts, the wetness index also were generated. Comparing this wetness index and NDWI, the inundated area has been calculated. Okay. So if you see here, what is the percentage of area under submergence? Kottayam was the highest. And I was telling Kottayam and Alappuzha is under high rainfall, but at the same time it remains in plains, whereas Idiki is the one with very high rainfall, but it remains in the higher elevated portion. So they didn't have much submergence, but these are all lying in the lower elevation. Okay. So this type of studies, it can be easily done. This is another study in Kerala where we have taken Kuttanadu. Kuttanadu is a low-lying area where they cultivate maximum rice in a standing water. Okay, so in such a place in the year of 2018, high flood occurred, and because of that, submergence also, all the cultivated land has been completely submerged. They lost their almost all the crops. So when you study anything, this is a Kuttanadu district area. So I have to see what are the rivers flowing inside and what is the catchment area. So there are 3 rivers flowing into that, Meenachil, and I don't remember other 2. 2 more rivers are there. The major one is Meenachil River. So you identify the catchment area first. You cannot do a study within this particular place. You have to make the complete area for the study. Analysis and all has to be done, and how much it comes to this Kuttanadu, you have to find it out. Okay, that is what is the way of doing flood mapping. Okay, now what do we do here? We again prepared land use map. Land use is the most important criteria of all these things. If you have all the data and if you don't have land use, you cannot proceed your study. Okay, so if you see here, this is a vegetation. Green color represents vegetation, brown represents build-up land, and blue all paddy field, and the remaining is water body. So this is what is the total thing we have taken. It's a very small area. There is not much complications in this particular. So we have taken only 4 cases. And our major land comes in the paddy field. So we concentrated on the paddy field. You can see the decrease in paddy field, okay, and increase in residential area in patches here also, okay. So, and another one is they have slowly moved, sometimes based on the availability of water, they slowly move from paddy field to other vegetation. If the standing water is not very high, actually they grow a special rice there. which is it is a costly one, which is available only in Kutanadu rice. They call it as Kutanadu rice itself. Okay, so they slowly shifted to other vegetation also. This type of changes, it will come in your land use map. This is very important because as your type of the crop changes, evapotranspiration also changes. Okay, that means the rate of evaporation changes means your hydrologic cycle also changes. Okay, this is what I have been talking about as digital elevation model. So you can see here the highest value is 95 and the lowest value is 0. So if you say Coimbatore, our highest value is 413 meters, 414 meters. Okay, but here this is a very low lying area. That's why we have taken this. So highest elevation itself is only 95. So this type of thing is available from, you can download it from USGS Earth Explorer. It is called as ASTER-DEM or SRTM-DEM. For 30-meter resolution, it is available. You can download it. Okay. So based on this DEM, we generate this flow direction. What is flow direction is, if I put water in one particular cell, it will compare the surrounding cells and it will just write the direction of which direction, north, east, south. Again, the next cell, it will compare with the 8 surrounding cells and you will get it like this. So this 1, 2, 3 represents 8 directions, north, east, south, northwest, like that. Okay. So based on that, you do this catchments. So each one represents a stream. Small streams are present for each of the catchment. And you do this adjoint catchment, which can be clubbed together. This is what is hydrologic soil I was telling. So this particular Kutanadu is having 3 types of hydrologic soil, B, C, D. Okay, A is not there. That means infiltration, with very high infiltration, I don't have soil. Other types of soil is there. D is the soil with very low infiltration. Okay, so maximum area is having low infiltration soil. It's a clay soil, that particular place. That is why they grow paddy. Okay. Okay, based on the land use and hydrologic soil group, you come to such one which is called as a curve number grid. The curve number grid is the representation of the land use and the type of soil. You will get these numbers. You have to assign these numbers to different places. Okay, so you will get it like this. And based on the curve number, you can calculate what is your runoff. We have a method called a Soil Conservation Service method, SCS method. I have not put the formula here. You can go to that method and you can use it and you can calculate runoff. Okay. Runoff again can be calculated using in your raster itself. All this, whatever I have shown, is done using GIS only. Okay, raster maps. Okay. Now this is the flood period what has been considered, 14/8 to 28, and this is the rainfall, and the highest rainfall occurred in 16/8. For the same period, if you generate your streams, stream flow, what was the values? So these were the flow values where you have the highest rainfall on 17/8 and 18/8. The values are like this. Okay. And again, as I was telling, all the study has to be compared with your observed value. It was compared and we got 0.935 as a correlation coefficient. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, till now what we have been started seeing is in flood case, flood mapping, how should I do? Now I'll come to drought. Okay, so what we have studied in case of a drought mapping is, if you're taking a watershed, what is the type of vegetation present? What is your vegetation index there? And what is the health of the vegetation? How much temperature is available? These are the cases you can study. Okay, higher the temperature concentration, higher will be the drought. Okay, so we have taken a small watershed. This total thing is Noyal watershed. What is flowing inside Coimbatore? It reaches Kaveri in Kudumudi. So I have taken only the upper portion. It comprises of Alandurai, Karunya, all these places up to this is the Tirupur. Up to Tirupur I have taken that. Okay. So this is the formula what you can use for calculating land surface temperature. I have shown in the beginning itself how to calculate one map I have shown. Land surface temperature, it varies from 36 degree, 37 degree in Chennai. So similarly, you can calculate it for any place. This LST time you have to calculate, and you have to calculate emissivity. Emissivity is what is the proportion of emission from the land surface, how much it takes place. So for that you calculate proportion of vegetation. And then using this, you put it in emissivity, then calculating emissivity, here you put it, and you calculate T10 from these coefficients. K2 and K1 are constants which will be given in your satellite images when you download the image. And L lambda, it is the band value, what you will be getting in your satellite image again. Band 10 and band 11 you have to take. in the first Landsat 8 what I have shown. Using that, band 10 and band 11 can be taken, and using this we have to put it here as L lambda, and T10 you calculate and put it here, you will get LST10. All these are constants which are coming in these equations. Okay, Planck's constant, Stephen-Boltzmann constant, all these constants can be used. Okay, using that you can calculate land surface temperature. Similarly, another vegetation index also has to be calculated, VCI, vegetation condition index. I was talking to you about NDVI. So NDVI is for every cell, what is the value of NDVI that you'll be knowing. For the same, minimum value and maximum value also will be there in your image. Using that you calculate vegetation condition index and temperature condition index using Tmax, maximum temperature in that particular place, minimum temperature. And vegetative health index, what is the health of the vegetation, chlorophyll content, that you can see from this. For all this, these are the extreme values. Less than 10 means it's all extreme, and it is greater than 40 means there is no drought. But less than 10, it shows it's a drought area. Okay, so like that, this has been done. So this is your land surface temperature for this particular region. So 22 is a low value. You can see very high value is the 50.2. It is all in this particular places nearer to the city. Very high values are there. And this is a vegetation index, green. This represents high vegetation, and you can see along the river coast, the vegetation index also is there. And this brown is all patches of cultivated residential areas. Okay. And water supplying vegetation index, how much water is available for the plants. This is water supplying vegetation index. Vegetation condition index, higher the vegetation condition, better will be the vegetation there. Drought will not be there. And this is temperature condition index, high the temperature condition, more area, how we generally see is not a particular cell. You have to calculate how much area is under high temperature, how much area is under low temperature, like that you have to differentiate it. And then only you can analyze and tell what is a type of drought here. These are the vegetation health indices generated in different periods. During May 2014, 2015. 2015 is comparatively better because we had a good rainfall at that time, again 16 and 17. Okay. Okay. These are the various values during the years, and from maximum we'll see only the maximum values. NDVI maximum is good. WSVI maximum is not favorable. VCI it's good. So like that you have to make the analysis. Okay, comparing the years. VHI is good. So if you see 2016 is very high because of the high maximum rainfall which occurred in the year 2015. Okay, this all shows what is the type of soil moisture you have that particular place. Okay, that is the thing mainly which concentrates in all these vegetation indices. Okay, okay, and with this I close. I come to the summary. So for any mapping, what you have to do is identify your study area and try to identify what are the problems, cases, because different study area will have different things. Okay, for example, if I take Chennai, I had more urbanization and drainage problem was there. But in case of Kerala, it is not there. Urbanization is very less. The reason of flood is only due to higher elevation and lower elevation, sudden decrease in elevation difference and soil type. So like that, you have to identify, a preliminary study has to be done. Based on the preliminary study, you identify the methods, because I have shown you some 3 or 4 methods. One more method is also the SWOT. Time will not be sufficient for that, so I have not taken that. So choose your method of mapping, understand the study area, do a rainfall analysis and understand the study area, then go for flood and drought mapping, and go for remedial measures. If you take Chennai, Chennai was very close to, airport itself is very close to the submerged area. So Chennai airport was closed for a very long period, okay? So analysis should have been done, and the airport identification of location should have been done in a different place, okay? So these are the things what you have to study. Or remedial measures means you can go for some bunds, you can go for some levees or something, it's called flood walls. Such type of measures have to be taken. And then we go for future suggestions. Okay. So with that, I close. It is open for queries. Thank you so much for the listening. You can contact me over my mail ID. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you so much for the presentation, ma'am. Participants, if you have any queries.
Any queries? You can put it in the chat box. If you have any queries.
Participants, if you have any queries, kindly post your queries.
Okay, Mr. Arvind, you asked about which model is best for urban flood modeling. So for urban flood modeling, you should go for HECRAS modeling. So that's what I was telling. In case of urban areas, we will be having only this canals and small canals only will be there, which is acting as flood carriers. So the canal section should be known, and what is the slope, gradient, all this should be very well known. If you know all these things, these details should be there, then you can go for HECRAS. That is the best model. I hope you answered your question. Any other questions?
Participants,
you.
if there is any query, hello, Savin sir. Savin sir.
Any doubts about data downloading or something like that, you can put it. You can normally go to USGS Earth Explorer. You can create your own login and you can download some 10 scenes per day. Okay, that is freely available. And another land viewer is also there. It is also freely available. Up to 30-meter resolution, you can download.
Ma'am, is it? Hello.
Hello, Naveen sir.
Sir, you can conclude, sir.
Hello.
Sir, is it
Yeah.
audible?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Sir.
sir.
Thank you, ma'am, Dr. Brahma, ma'am, for his wonderful session. Thank you, our HOD and correspondent and the principal for their guidance. And thank you,
Okay, thank you
Jerry
all.
sir.
Thank you for the opportunity once again. I thank Mr. Naveen Kumar and the team for thanking me, for helping me in this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Jerry sir, for his technical support. Thank you, dear participants. And I posted the link for the feedback form in the chat box. Please fill it. We'll send you the certificate within a week. Thank you.
So thank you, one and all. Thank you so much.
Jerry sir, 2 minutes, sir. Then we'll close the session.
Sir, close பண்ணிடலாமா?
Sir, 2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes. Dear participant, please fill the feedback form. Then we'll send the certificate within a week. I send it in a feedback link in the chat box. Please fill it. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
சரி சார் க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிருங்க.
Okay, sir.
தேங்க்யூ சார்.